Hello and welcome to our midweek live stream where we're going to be talking today about the AI productivity myth. So hopefully you are able to see and hear me adequately, and we're waiting for our guest to join us, Mr. Dom Heinrich, who will, excuse me, I messed that up. Dom Heinrich will be joining us shortly. Now, Dom is a global leader on AI and someone that I interviewed for the Product Agility podcast a few months ago, and his episodes have come out quite recently. Dom was an inspiration to me in regards to his knowledge and his expertise and the way he helped me better understand just what AI is capable of and what more I can be capable of if I find different ways to harness it. So it is with great pleasure that I welcome Mr. Dom Heinrich into the live stream. Hello there, Dom. Oh, Dom, whose connection seems a little bit ropey. Yeah, Dom, we can't hear you either. Yeah, the joys of technology. No, can't hear you, Dom. So we'll just wait for Dom to see if we can fix this up. But what I was saying was that Dom really did give me a huge education on just, I say, the different ways that we can use AI. They're not just down to trivial things like getting it to write a poem for a loved one or a rap song, which we nearly did yesterday, but actually using AI to give us instant feedback on difficult and challenging situations, and also using AI to help generate things such as meeting notes or minutes for specific audiences. So let's see if we can bring Dom back. So I can see he's here. Dom, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Technology, isn't that the topic of the day?
I know. Dom, we should be using AI to find out how we can fix this, perhaps.
Yes. Look, the New York Minute got me in on time, and that Tech Minute got me 2 minutes delayed. Very un-German of me, but I'm really excited to be here with you, Ben. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. I've been looking forward to this. I have been looking forward. I mean, I always look forward to spending time with you, Dom.
You got a little bit nervous. Did you get a little bit nervous that I might not show up?
Well, do you know what I thought? If you don't show up,
I won't ghost you.
Yeah, no, well, if you ghosted me, then I would have found something to talk about for an hour, and everyone would have had a fantastic time anyway. I'm just maybe not.
I think we should have avoided. I want to definitely avoid that part. I like listening to you, and I love your. What always impresses me, the setup and the nice backgrounds. You could be a designer, you know that, right?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I will take that as a compliment and put it on my list of things to become when I'm a grown-up.
Good luck.
So, Dom, do you want to give everyone a bit of an introduction into your background for those of you that haven't already caught up with your with our conversations from the podcast?
Sure, it would be my pleasure. I hope we have some people listening to us, but I'm Dominik Heinrich. You hear on my name, not on my accent, obviously, that I'm originally from Munich in Germany. Moved to the US about 9 years ago in 2015, and was responsible the last 10 years building up the innovation department for MRM, which is part of McCann World Group. Which I left after a successful stint. MRM became best workplace for innovators, and we integrated the innovation department more in the organization, which I think is great. The leaders there are amazing. Big shout out to Bradley and Kate. Thank you for the great time there. But I ventured on, and since part of my time at MRM was always building new products, new services, supercharged by technology, and very often by what we call AI. I would say it's more machine learning and data and analytics components. But we built real products. We helped organizations like Nike, like Nestle, worked with Coca-Cola on a lot of occasions, together with Microsoft, actually on a version of GPT-1 in 2019. And I had the pleasure to be part of the Wired documentary, Being Human in an AI World. That couldn't be more important today. And it was at that time already very important. So my job today is part of TLGG Consulting, actually a German consultancy that is part of Omnicom Group since a few years and has an office in New York. So I work very closely here with the absolute fabulous Katrin Zimmermann and her team, which is it's a great time to actually help them to package and work with clients on AI augmented innovation processes and methodologies, bringing them to market. And then I'm also having another job, actually two, as Ben knows. I'm lecturing or teaching AI design for professional education at Pratt University in New York, which is absolutely my dream university. I wish I would have studied there, but at least they let me in as a faculty member. We set this up together with Tony Jones, and Tony Jones is actually my co-founding partner. It's the last stint of my companies, which is Creative AI Academy, where we help organizations like yours to become upskilled in the age of AI. So we do leadership training, we build a framework for that. We do training for employees on the use of AI. And then we have an executive coach, the fabulous Stala Sireno, which is part of the trio here. And Stala brings in the coaching perspective on the age of AI. What does this mean for cultural change? What does this mean for organizational change? And so that is what I'm basically doing. If you want to know more, go on creative-ai.academy or on dominicheinrich.com, which you probably not will figure out, but just Google me, go on LinkedIn, we'll find some things.
So
can we now move on, Ben?
Yeah, we can, absolutely. I mean,
this is the hardest part for me. I hate doing that.
Well, you did a decent job. What I'm wondering though, and this is never failing to surprise me. Did you say the company there's Omnicorp?
Or Omnicom, not to confuse with Omnicorp. What was the COVID strain called?
Yeah,
no, it's
Omnicom.
not. It's called Omnicom.
Yeah. Omnicorp were the company that created Robocop and Ed 209. You see, so we're talking about dystopian futures, right? With the machines taking over. I mean, to call your company like Omnicorp, like that's a bit close to, but obviously not called Omnicorp. But it just made me smile because when we were getting ready for this, we were talking about dystopian futures and how I think there is some kind of doom mongering around the function of AI and how it's going to be the demise of humans. And I think that maybe that is being overplayed because what we are here to talk about today is the real impact on AI, looking at the genuine effects it can have on our productivity and our creativity and trying to unpack some of the myths. So as we're going through today, if you do have any questions or any myths or challenges to us about AI, please do put them in the comments and we will be picking them up as we go through. But that being said, Dom, where would you like to start with this?
It's a good question. I'm actually looking down, which is very unprofessional of me, but I'm trying to find a picture when you said theme. And it reminded me on a theme years ago at MRM, where I was on stage with the amazing, maybe I find this later for you. There's a great picture of me and Nikki Boulard, who at that time was the chief creative officer of MRM in London. And we were both going on stage in spacesuits on a senior leadership meeting. And I think we've done really well and we looked fabulous, obviously. Nikki would say brilliant. But I can tell you, we shocked some of our colleagues who were probably more on the side of, let's say, the conservative side of the business. And it's a leadership meeting, a global one, so it's understandable. But I think it's a nice segue how technology can scare us and can have an impact on us as humans. And so while we will talk today about product, I think one of the nice elements I'm trying to discuss with you, Ben, is around the topic of How can we stay human in the age of AI, and how can we make sure that we anticipate the humanity in these processes and not just thinking about AI or technology first, which I sometimes feel we do.
So let's break that down a little bit. Are you saying that AI can make us more human?
I think so.
How?
I knew you would go there. It's very simple. At the moment, where we are with the machines, is we need to input very precisely, very accurately what we want. Because based on our input, these machines creating the output, right? They're using our words that we input to anticipate and predict what the most likely answer is we want to hear. Obviously, there's data involved, but there's no intelligence involved. There's only mathematics involved. So now I'm sounding very technically, but what I'm trying to do and to explain is, if a system works like that, very rational, very thought through, needs a lot of information, things we might not speak out loud. If we don't do that, the machine will not know. It's the same for humans, right? And my hope on that side of humanity in this case is, and that's just one instance, is that it makes us better communicators. If I need to learn how to brief a machine better, if I need to learn how to delegate, because I'm not good in delegating, but the machine, I hear a lot from people saying, I don't use ChatGPT or OpenAI's platforms or Bard or Gemini now. I don't use them because they don't spit out what I want. Because the mindset of humans was always wired to be fast, get things done, to use less brain power because it burns energy. The problem with that is we do this with humans and we do this with machines. And the output will always be not good if we don't brief well. So long story short, my hope is that we learn in the communication with machines, since they start speaking our language, to also learn how to speak with other humans again.
It's an interesting point.
Hopeless romantic.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. I'm going to make a reference to an old series of novels called Mills and Boon. But yeah, you can Google. I'll share a link to it later. Very, very old UK reference there. However, I do take what you're saying, because I think there is huge challenges for people to know what to ask people, generally speaking. And the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, has always been true. And whether we are looking at our relationships or even in product development, having a shared and ubiquitous language and being able to communicate clearly is one of the easiest ways to increase our productivity. If we're not having to constantly repeat and go over what we say, if we are able to communicate more clearly and get things right the first time. But actually, that's quite a big step forward for our productivity, and potentially, I suppose, our creativity and innovation as well, because there are huge performance benefits that we can get. I suppose a challenge with that is, how much are we as humans or as individuals, let's say, not as a race, but as individuals, willing to kind of go on that journey? I mean, people are definitely, we always get stuck in certain routines, and we're always scared of certain things. Do you foresee a world where AI will deepen the ravine, deepen the canyon between like us and them? Will there be some people you think maybe will get left behind because they're not willing or able to get on board with it, and it's going to create kind of broader social disparity?
You should definitely invite Katrin next time for your conversation, because she will go definitely deep on that part. And she has a more critical view on it. I see it as I think there is the possibility that people get left behind, but I also see it as the world and computers and digital becomes more accessible in where we are at the moment. My mom, she asked me to explain her ChatGPT, and by the time I was then finally visiting her in Germany, she figured it out on her own. She's like, this is super easy. I don't need your explanation. I just type in what I want and I get the output. So very interesting how technology can also democratize. And I think AI has the potential to democratize technology, access to the internet. And there's a couple of studies out there that are saying that countries like Africa, countries like South America will leapfrog the Western nation in terms of AI usage and go way more creative and use it way more creative and approach it in a way more creative way. And we'll have a different way of interacting with it. While we are thinking a lot about humanity and the dangers of humanity, which is not wrong, right? It's a very important piece of the puzzle. I think the dangerous part is that we have this misconception that the machine is intelligent. At the moment, it isn't, and that the robots will taking over and run over our world. The only people that are dangerous are the humans, and the humans who are using AI and the people who watch videos that we come up to an election year here in the United States, or people watch things and believe them, right? And I think that's what is that then? Is that misinformation? Is that misinterpretation of the facts? And what are the facts? And I think that's the dangers we are walking towards, but they're very human and they're very human related. The technology just makes it as easier to access for my mom. It makes it easier to access for people with criminal intentions.
So, and I'm going to kind of keep the conversation moving forward and not dwell on certain things.
Thank you.
We are live.
I appreciate that.
We are live, and I want to make sure people hang around.
We are live.
So what
okay,
I was, well, yeah, we are live.
Did just 10 people drop?
Yeah.
Or it was only 5?
No, we're down to 600 now. No, 600. No. numbers are going up. We have
I hope so.
We have a great audience. We have a great audience for these live streams, and people tend to hang around because the conversations are quite useful and practical. And there's something that I want to kind of address, right, as a jumping off point for this. We spoke about some pretty deep stuff there. Now, we spoke about misinformation and about taking people down. What's the word I'm looking for? We have a phrase in England, taking people down the garden path, kind of misleading them, making them believe things that aren't true for our own ends. Now, one of the dangers that I see when it comes to the way that trainers, educators, or people running workshops or authors maybe are faced with is that I think there could be lots of usage of AI which isn't labeled and people are passing stuff off as their own. So, for example, I've been creating a new training course on systems modeling to help overcome organizational impediments. And in the material I've produced, I haven't hidden from the fact that I've used ChatGPT-4 to generate some of the metaphors or to generate some of the raw material based upon certain motivational models. And to give that transparency, I have put the prompt in the training material. And said, if you want to go ahead and generate this and have a play around and figure out what more you can do with it, and here's the prompt and go and put it in yourself and have a go. But I wonder, then, is there this danger that if the machines aren't going to take over anytime soon, it isn't actually intelligent, but humans are the problem? Do you feel that then one of the barriers of AI really taking hold is because people are going to be using it and not saying that they're using it and passing off as their own work?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. I think if we go back to what I said in the beginning, humans are wired in a lazy way, right? It's like we hope this machine sits in front of us and is thinking, is like, what will Ben ask me today? I'm so curious. And the machine isn't doing that, right? The machine is not waiting for you to go in and say 5 words and get the job done for you, and you can go off to the pub and can have a drink. And I think the danger here is to not disclose it, because not disclosing means, for me, you are already hesitant about the output. Means you probably haven't put the right rigor in it to actually be proud of it, to hand it over. I did a lot of work, and I always disclose the work that I used AI because I'm so excited about the output I generated. And I think it shouldn't be a shame, because I see AI as an augmentation to humanity and not as a replacement, which might be true in some instances. But I see it more that it is augmenting our ingenuity and our thinking. So I think you should be proud because you ask the right questions, you use the right prompts. And one very smart person then said once to me, it's like having Einstein in the pocket. But I have to ask the right question
Yeah.
if I want to have the theories. And that's true. Do you remember that person?
Yeah, well, I know. I heard it again this week, actually. The same person said it this week.
Coming out of your
Yeah.
out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Good. I love that, by the way, Ben. I think it's a great explanation, and I use it at Pratt when we talk. We talk a lot with the students about the human AI relationship, and it goes exactly in that direction. We encourage them to, or we want to give them all the knowledge to empower them, and people in the trainings empower them to be confident about it and being proud of it, that they used it in a way nobody else used it. Otherwise, you create a lot of average and nobody will look at your LinkedIn content anymore.
I mean, maybe this is one of the interesting things then, if we pick up what you were saying earlier and take this idea that, you know, having ChatGPT on your phone in your pocket is like having Einstein there. And for people that have never heard me say this before, it is the idea that if you were sitting opposite Einstein and you asked him about the theory of relativity, unless you're an expert in that field, your questions are going to be pretty rubbish. And I suspect that after a while, Einstein would get bored of answering your questions and stop trying to kind of dumb it down for you and be like, oh my God, okay, let me go and talk to someone who's at my own intellectual level. So in addition to that, I've always increasingly believed that AI and using, I'm a big fan of GPT-4, so that's what I use quite often. I'll refer to that. Other AI models are available, whether it be Gemini, is that what it's called?
Gemini, Llama. The Llama is quite good, by the way.
Oh, really?
It's harder to install on your computer and it drains your computing power, but from the output, it's really, really interesting. When you go in ideation, I can only recommend it.
Well,
there's also Claude. Let's not forget Claude.
Yeah, don't forget poor Claude. But we use these models, and it means that rather than me spending 2 hours trying to make something good, I spend 10 minutes making something good, but an hour and 50 making it brilliant. Right?
Exactly. Beautiful said.
And so I have to upskill myself, because once it's good, it turns out I'm not intelligent enough. I've never dealt with taking things from good to brilliant, because I haven't done the research. I need to learn more. I need to ask better questions. I need to understand what research I need to do. And then, of course, I will lean on AI to help me do some of that as well. But I am growing as a person. My opinions are growing, and I'm getting a huge amount of benefit from those two things. One, knowing it's an expert and trying to get better at asking expert questions, but to also just speed up things so that I can spend more time doing the things I want to do. So I think that this myth that it was gonna, I don't know, that it's lazy and it's cutting corners. Like if you're lazy, like you said, humans are, and you want to cut corners, yeah, brilliant, and you will just end up with some relatively mediocre stuff. But if you put the effort in and you grow yourself, and you get better asking the questions, know what questions to ask, then it's only going to really enhance people's productivity, innovation. And I loved what you were saying when we talk about innovation. You mentioned it on the podcast by asking it, what if or what else? Like I can't think what the example was, but if we were to get this working in space, if we were to get this working with this particular type of demographic, if we were going to get this product adopted in a particular market, like, how would that work? What would be the challenges? And actually, that's a huge benefit to us, being able to just type something in and get that data out.
There's so many thoughts I just had, but what you said, Ben, I think the beautiful part on the last bit is for example, in the beginning, when it was really big last year at the same time, people started making all sorts of collaborations with other brands and just said, how would this look like? And there was an IKEA with Patagonia one, and there was a Burberry one with British Airways. And so we used that example of Burberry and British Airways in the class at Pratt. And the interesting part is we basically modeled, if people would we modeled a persona based on somebody who was sitting in the class. We built this person out as a synthetic persona. And we modeled if that synthetic persona would rather take the Burberry blanket home from the airplane, legally, illegally, pay for it or wouldn't care for it. And the answer was surprising. I would never, the synthetic answer was, I would never take something home that is not mine. But if I really like the material, I would probably pay for it. And we had the person sitting in the room, the real person, who said this would be exactly my answer. And I think that's interesting because from where we are going towards in this perspective and innovation, what you're talking about, where we have different perspectives, different angles where we look at things. I think one of the things that is crucial is that we are, since the beginning of the digital age, in a rabbit hole, right? If you look at our timesheets and if we are very, very honest with ourselves, then I would spend probably 5 hours on building a deck and 2 hours thinking about the content on the deck. Maybe that's not true because maybe I think while I'm walking and all these things, but the way we work today and the crunch time and better margins and people need to be more profitable and efficiencies, all these things that drive our days, the hectic we have, in particular in New York, is really interesting because I think this is the way where technology can make things more efficient. That's the automation piece for me. And then the augmentation piece is exactly what you said. Do I have the desire to push it further? Do I have the desire to build the Burberry and British Airways collaboration, and I'm excited about it? Great. But am I excited to really figure out how this would really work, how this collaboration could make money? So these are all the things designers can suddenly think about, innovators can think about, because they have a machine that helps them, even if they are not professionals in that. It will get them to a different level. Maybe a new idea comes out of this. Maybe the idea is completely different than that collaboration that is obvious in the first place. And I think that's the interesting part where we go in towards. I'm starting racing because I get really excited about this.
So if we talk, I suppose, let's take the persona of somebody who is really keen about finding ways to integrate AI into their daily work or into their organization. Like what are some, or are there any adoption techniques, any tips you could provide for how people can kind of take their enthusiasm and begin to spread it within their teams or within their organization?
Yeah, I think the best advice to be given here is if you go in and have the perception that it makes you better, it enhances your thinking, but it will take you time, as you said. Instead of 2 hours, maybe I get down to 1 hour 50. Maybe you take 2 hours 30. But if you go in with this perception that I have suddenly infinite knowledge in front of me, like the example you said about space, then that's the right approach. The second part is creating a habit. So we recommend always people, we have a system which we created, which is the 21-day habit system that is being used in many, many occasions on other things. But you can use it for AI too. And we basically give you an instant thought starter every morning where you can use AI for 30 minutes. And you need to create a habit that it becomes a natural part of your ways of working. And that's not easy. And we have a lot of companies where we do the trainings, but they do the training, but then they don't implement it in their day-to-day. And the problem is that you need to look at the full workflow and understand where AI can actually help you, and then start purposely with one by one to integrate it all the time. It will take time. Yeah. It's the same thing with any technology that was ever invented. It takes time. And it's like everybody talks about mass adoption super quick. We have a lot of people using it, but we're having more people using it wrongly or not rightfully to the full capacity they have at their fingertips now.
I don't know if you recall, but many years ago, back in the 1990s, I believe, there was this movement known as business process reengineering. Of course. So I was, Dom, and back then, back then when science fiction was good, that there is this technique, a book, a movement called business process reengineering, which
Mm,
basically made lots of people redundant because they found ways to make processes much more efficient by re-engineering them, by cutting out a lot of the waste, by automating things, by putting machines involved with things. And
mm,
I remember reading the book and really enjoying the book actually, and then took that into my kind of business analysis profession. But the book, when
mhm,
as soon as you mention it to some people, they're like, "Oh my god, that's horrible!" Honestly, that movement that was so disgusting what they did to people. And it's like, well, hold, okay, it did make lots of people redundant. It made lots of companies more effective and more efficient at the same time. What do we want here? When the Industrial Revolution started, then people stopped making things in their villages, and they went to work in big factories. When people were sewing things by hand in factories, then machines came along, and they're no longer sewn by hand, or robots pick up a lot of the effort when it comes to manufacturing cars. Like, there's always things that are changing, and that's been
mhm.
very. And I don't know if we're ever going to kind of get to that point with AI, but these things were almost uh, like flipping a coin. These changes actually made lots of people redundant very quickly, wholesale across many different industries. Do you think that AI will ever get to the point where we're seeing that wholesale mass redundancy and whole bits of like many different similar functions across many different organizations and industries all coming out because AI has managed to solve something which historically has been humans doing it themselves?
I think that's the opportunity, right? I just one thought on this. The negative news I see about AI, they're not wrong, and I think we need this as a counterbalance in society. I think there's a lot of hush hush and there's a lot of clickbait. I want to be heard, right? And I say something that is your fear. That was always a good methodology to make people listen to you. And we see that in media happening a lot, but people are using that to their advantage. I don't believe in that. I believe more what you said. And look at electricity, same thing. It became a commodity, right? It's like back in the days, probably when somebody could make on the light and looked at it and it's like, oh my God. And they were probably doing this all the time and very excited about it. Today, when was the last time you thought about, oh my God, there's electricity and light, right? Maybe when you have a good idea. But it's a subtle German joke. So thank you that you.
Wasn't lost on me,
Yeah,
but
thank you. So, but my point is, my point on this is that AI will become normal, and I think we see it with the human AI pin, which is coming out end of this month, in April, being shipped. I think we will. Technology is so dominant at the moment, and I think it will take more backseat and become a natural part. So I think we go back to be more human. I think social media is going away because it makes no sense anymore, right? It's like you can maybe it never did, but I think the opportunity is to become more human. The opportunity is to use our thinking and think about new applications that can be built. I have the theory that every one of us will have a GPT companion that basically does the real main work for us while we are focusing on creating the model and making it unique to our thinking and to our styles, design styles, finance styles. There's a lot of finance styles. I learned that from my friend Nolan. But I think there's a real possibility to become way more human and become way more focused on human life than it was probably in the 70s and 80s, or probably much
mm,
earlier, before the computers came into our life. So I think there's this hardcore machines taking over the world perspective and destroying societies. Everything will behaviorally engineered. That's a possibility. But I think there's also the possibility that we are becoming more human, spend more time in real conversations, and things that are usually being our day to day at the moment will be automated because they are not necessary. Building a PowerPoint, I think we can just dump it down to that level. I think we can all agree this is a waste of our thinking and our brain power and our ingenuity.
mm.
but still, it makes up a lot of our time.
It does. And then if you think about typing pools, many years ago there were typing pools where people would dictate and then send it down to be typed up. I mean, we don't have typing pools
Yeah.
anymore because everyone's now got the ability to do word process at their desks or just to dictate directly into some kind of text. So if things are moving on, I suppose if we're gonna take something away from our conversation, which is the myth that AI is going to take over, that it is actually intelligent. At the moment, they're not true, and they're probably not true in our lifetime. This isn't a sentient thing which is kind of thinking for itself. It has to rely upon. I loved it when you say, I always love it when you say this, but it relies upon us giving it information and telling it what we want from it, rather than it just kind of having no input from our world at all and just saying, "Oh, okay, what about this?" Well, no, it needs that input, and we need to get better at the inputs that we give it so that we can keep up with the trend and use it to our benefit to increase our productivity, which then you were saying, rather than try and do the wholesale change of a process or something, that we find ways to integrate it along the way, just to kind of give us more time and more headspace to take things from good to great, to coin a phrase.
Yeah. And Catherine would probably say that's a naive perspective I have. And maybe that's true. So watch this video in 10 years and tell me if it's true, if I was naive. But I think there is a real possibility that we will see more individuals having companies than ever before. I think Sam Altman said we will see the first one-person billion-dollar company. And I think that's a possibility. And the possibility exists because it's more about your ingenuity and your creative thinking. And the people who will struggle more in this new world order will be probably the ones who think that beach day is what AI does for them. As long as we think that way, big organizations and CEOs will think, oh, I can make people redundant and I can automate things. And maybe that's true in some instances, right? But you will see, we will get a flood of content the next 2 years. We will see a massive push in automation, in marketing in particular, of content creation. And we will see a decline in people using it and actually being engaged with it. So we're going back to creativity as the only way to survive. And I think famously Rob Riley said that, but quoting him here, I think it's so true. And it is that doesn't mean you need to have a creative title in your name. It's like everybody needs to use what they have on top and think about it. And that's why I think the possibility that Africa and South America will leapfrog the Western society, we're so complicated in our thinking, we're so scared about things, while these people have just great ideas. And it's like, wow, this thing can build me a business plan. I couldn't do this before. I had no access to education on that level, but now I can do it and it can build a business. So you will see they will just go above and beyond with creativity on this, and they'll probably leapfrog us in many ways.
And I'm going to suggest that we begin to bring the conversation to a close. Because I don't want to keep everyone around for too long. And if I'm honest with you, Dom, my office is getting really hot.
Are they all dropping off now?
No,
did we lose everybody?
No,
It's just you and me now.
People are still here. We have as many people now as we did do at the beginning.
Wow.
Two people. Both people. Two people just left because you said that. No, I think one, it is getting really hot in here, and I'm struggling. It's really warm. I have a lovely office, but the sun comes in, and I just cook. But I also think what you said there was really important, and I think if there's something that I would suggest that people take away from this is don't feel threatened by AI. Don't feel that you should be pushing it away or dismissing it in some way. Like, have the mindset of actually you are a creative person, and how can I use it to allow me to be creative, rather than seeing it as something which is kind of doing me out of a job or getting in the way or some kind of fad. Actually take the attitude and say, well, what can I do to free me up as a human to be a more creative human in what I do? And I think that's a lovely sentiment.
I love that. Usually I have something to add to what you said, but there's not much. I'm excited for the future, and I think for innovators, it's the best time to be alive. And I think everybody can be an innovator. Everybody should really think about this in a critical way of, yes, I'm in an organization where AI is now dominant, but how can we leverage it? What's my workflow? What's my use case? How can I apply it? We always look at just one nugget. When we have a framework which we use in class, but also at the Creative AI Academy, which is basically looking at what's your workflow and use case look like.
Mhm.
And one of Irina, one of our students, she works at the UX team at Salesforce. She used it in the most brilliant way. But the first question is, what is your desired outcome? The second question is, what's your barrier? What holds you up to achieve that? And then you can think about what AI can do to overcome that barrier. And I think that's a really human perspective on it, because we have decision-making biases, we have overthinking, we have all these human traits where I think AI potentially makes us better as human beings. As my last sentence, otherwise just join me
Yeah,
at the
and I'm going
class.
to ask you to repeat a little bit of it because I heard it, but it kind of almost passed me by a little bit because I just started thinking what you're saying and relating to something that I'm doing at the moment.
So you were distracted, or I was not
No,
explaining?
you said it, and it distracted me because I'm doing this course on systems modeling to explore and learn more about organizational impediments and to generate hypotheses for overcoming them. And part of the whole challenge, and I'd love to get you on my systems thinking little bandwagon, my systems modeling, because I think you and I'd have a whole lot of fun going through some of these things. But part of the challenge I found when they ran it for the most recent time was that I didn't spend enough time helping people come up with the goal. And a good goal allows people to put a boundary on the system they're trying to understand. Because then to say, okay, well, actually, this is part of the system, but actually totally outside of our ability to do anything. And the effect on the system we don't believe is significant enough to then model it. So that can go over there. And let's just keep focusing on actually understanding the system and how we can better learn about it to achieve our goals. But what you're saying about your student from Salesforce, what were the two questions?
So the first one was, what is your desired outcome in certain steps, like let's say ideation? And what is your barrier on that?
Okay.
And the ideation is very simple to use, right? You have the overthinking piece and the bias of decision making, because we think it is a good idea based on our own assumption and perspective and experience, probably, while an AI could actually go in and model it for you and can tell you if your gut feeling is right, and based on the person you are building it for, or the society, the persona you are building it for. So I think that's almost thought too little about it. I think there's 3 steps ahead. Katrin talks a lot about second order and third order effects, and I think that we're just scratching the surface on everything we do at the moment. But this framework of what is the step I'm doing, what is my desired outcome, so to your point, what's the goal I'm trying to achieve, what is my barrier, what hinders me to achieve my goal, is a good 3-step framework and thinking pattern to actually then think, okay, how can I do this differently, and what can I do to help me to get to this point?
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dom.
My pleasure.
Nice. Well, we'll draw this to a close because it's 45 minutes, and as I said, this office is uncomfortable.
Good.
So thank you very much for coming along, Dom. I think we spoke about some new stuff
pleasure.
today. It wasn't just a rehash of the podcast episodes, which is great. But if you haven't picked up those episodes and you do want to hear more from Dom on this topic and lots of other topics, particularly around sustainability, do check out the Product Agility podcast. I am branded up today. There we go. Have the t-shirt on as well. There we go. Do check it out. Great conversations with Dom, and some good conversations coming up this week with a lady named Julie Dirksen, which you might quite dig. because she's there. But her new book, Talk to the Elephant: The Science of Behavior Change. So how to design learning for behavior change is a brilliant, sprawling conversation. Dom. I think if we all one day we'll have a podcast get together, and I'm sure that we'll get out alive.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't change behaviors.
What should we do?
Probably anticipate them. I join the podcast and we can talk about it.
All right. Well, we can
I'm curious. I will listen to Judy's podcast, and then maybe we do a live with Judy.
Judy is coming on for a live stream actually.
When is that happening?
We're just trying to agree the date. Now, originally it was going to be next week, but I need to go back and confirm it. But I will let everybody know. But yeah, Judy will be coming on, and she's got a huge following in the learning and development space. So there's going to be some really interesting conversations. And actually, what we were going to be talking about, at least provisionally, we decided it was around systems thinking, systems modeling, and designing learning for behavior change. And actually just trying to understand, like when we're talking about behavior change from a systems thinking point of view, actually, how can we tune into what motivates people and what doesn't? And how can we change the way that we talk? Or change the way that we teach people. So yeah, everyone, if you're interested in that, please make sure you follow me on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest way to find out about when that's going to be announced, or follow my company Sheev, and you'll be made aware of that. So hopefully next week or the week after, I'll let you know, Dom. I'll send you a WhatsApp.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure. A lot of fun. Thank you, Ben, for having me. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and enjoy the springtime. It's getting started now.
Oh yeah, spring is here, and thank you everyone for coming along. I can see Ben, you were around. Always nice to see your name, Ben. And Nikolai, yeah, lovely to see you here, Nikolai. It's been a while since we spoke. I hope everything's going well with you. And thank you to everyone else that was here too. We'll be back again with another live stream next week or the week after. And oh my God, what month is it? It's March. I think at the end of the month, the beginning of next, I'll be back with John Spruce for our facilitation tapas, which is always fun.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, it's so good. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Dom. And we'll end this live stream here.